For a society or a country that still needs to deal with fundamental issues like unemployment, poverty, and education, things like sustainability and veganism are nowhere in the discussion. And even in developed societies, one needs to pay a premium to be a vegan and for using sustainable products, even though it appears that efforts are there to make such things mainstream today, since we are very clearly aware about the negative impacts. But even then, we are not able to transform in the way and the speed that we need to. Now, either we are too spoiled to change our habits and we prefer to ignore them than to fix things, or there are giant entities that are making sure that the status quo remains as it is. Or it is both, and everything is connected through a vicious cycle. There can be plenty of conspiracy theories that we can think of and find on the internet about all these things, but conspiracy involves chaos, and we talk about simple things here. So in this episode, I want to talk about my perceptions, my motivations about sustainability and how I simplify it for myself. Hi, my name is Parth and you are listening to Dhvani. So in the last 2 decades or so, sustainability has been one of the hot topics. Well, it has been around for a very long time, but let's just say that it's cool to be sustainable, right? Both for individuals and companies. And all of that is great. But the sad part is that while the focus on sustainability has increased overall, the dependence on fossil fuels and non-renewable resources doesn't seem to be going down. In fact, like everything else, it continues to increase every day. We all know how bad plastics are for the environment, for our health, but our dependence on them is not letting us change things. Also, often the alternatives to plastics are either expensive or fragile, so that becomes another problem. So what to do, how to look at things? I always used to wonder about this. So when we are busy in our lives and work and passions, we tend to neglect our vices that don't immediately result into bad impacts, right? But there are some events or triggers in life after which our perception changes and we start looking at things in a different way altogether. That's what happened to me when I watched a video about a girl who apparently generated just one jar of waste, one masonry jar of waste in 4 years of duration. And I watched this video 4 years ago. Her name is Lauren Singer, and now she runs a company that sells and promotes products that are packaged free and are made up of environment friendly materials like glass, metal, wood, or ceramic. Like, she's so passionate about environment conservation, almost at the level of crazy, that she doesn't even use a refrigerator. Imagine that. Obviously, it is unbelievable that a person would produce just one jar of waste in the span of 4 years. Her explanation about this is quite legit, to me at least. I will put a link in the show notes for you to check it out. But apart from this unthinkable feat, what she was able to achieve through this was even more interesting. Firstly, she was able to seed this very thought in my mind, and I'm sure for many others too, that I started to notice the things around me, their material, my consumption patterns, the amount of waste that I produce on daily basis, and all the things that I do as an individual to hurt the environment and myself maybe as well, which might not be so substantial in ruining the situation at individual levels, but when millions of people like me do the same thing, and since big companies enable us to do that, that is what hurts the ecosystem eventually, right? And the second thing that happened from this initiative that this girl took was that people started a conversation with her about alternatives to packaging, materials, products that are safe for the environment and for our consumption as well. And so she eventually started this company that makes package and plastic free products. And in these 4 years, I've seen her grow this tiny thought into a full-fledged organization. Well, I'm sure she's making money through this business today, but I still don't know how effective it is in the bigger picture. I still appreciate this message that she was able to get across to everybody. She was able to make me aware what my responsibility is as an individual. And that got me thinking about the things that are right in front of us, things that we observe in our daily lives and the experiences that we go through. And so I want to share some of my motivations and values that I associate sustainability with in this episode with you. So even if the science and conspiracies are questionable, these ideas might be able to persuade you to live a more sustainable life. So I've categorized these ideas into 3 C's. It's a little funny, but please bear with me. You might like what you hear. So the first point is cool. So before plastics were popular, most of the things were made up of wood, metal, glass or ceramics, right? While there is no denial to the fact that plastics are way more universal than any other material of that sort, but it also feels very cheap, isn't it? So what I did was that I tried changing all the things that I could from plastics to either wood, metal, glass or ceramic. For example, my water bottle, the bucket in the bathroom, my chair, the table, the utensils in the kitchen, most important. And I find these materials very cool compared to plastic. Like a glass bottle to store water is much more cooler than a cheap plastic bottle, right? Or a metal one. Of course, the electronics that we use today cannot be changed so easily because they use a ton of plastic. But for sure, every substitute to plastic is more premium and cool. The second point, compassion. So I'll give you an example. In India, pottery is almost a dying art form and skill today. Ceramics and earthen products have been replaced tremendously by plastics and paper. And I'm sure while the government tries to support the cottage and handicraft industry as much as it can, the sustenance of such traditional wisdom lies in the hands of us individuals. It's a very simple game of supply and demand. If we choose to use and consume such products, the costs will come down and we would be able to empower our local communities. I really don't need to go further into the need of supporting the local community because we all know how important that is. So if we can have a little compassion towards our traditional art forms, that automatically works towards sustainability. And the third one is creativity. To be able to do the other two, the only and the most important requirement is creativity. And I know it's often very open-ended and subjective, just like our favorite Indian word, jugaad. But if we can find a jugaad that can make this planet a little better, that can make our lives more worthy. We need creativity to find solutions, to substitute things. We need creativity to change, to transform, to make things better. Today's generation has taken up a very worthy cause, but the way we continue to function both as individuals and as a society, it seems very scary to me. Like I have a friend who's a biotechnologist by education and is very aware about the environment and has a deep connection with the nature. But he always plays the devil's advocate in such discussions with me about sustainability and conservation. He says, no matter whatever we do at our individual levels, it won't even make a dent. The change has to be transformational, drastic, and sudden. And this conversation happened 2 years ago. And a lot has changed in the last year. And often humans are very slow and gradual regarding change, right? But a virus is not. In a matter of just several months and even days, the way we used to do things has completely transformed today. I don't know if it's for the better or worse, but at least now we know that nothing is fixed, and like always, if there's enough collective will, anything is achievable. A lot of us might think that humans are doomed no matter what we do, but we can at least make an effort to save ourselves. That should be one of the objectives of our life, right? I don't know how effective metal straws and bamboo toothbrushes are in helping the environment, but as I said, I find it very cool. Let's try to find these little pockets of creativity in our lives so we can eventually enable ourselves to drive this transformation that we desperately require today. So I just have a simple request to you. After listening to this episode, just go and check all the plastic things that you can replace today in your home and in your life. And remember the 3 C's: cool, compassion, creativity. So what do you think about sustainability? And how do you perceive whatever is happening in the world today regarding that? If you have more ideas, opinions, thoughts about this, please go ahead and tell me about it at info@dhvani.co.in. You must check the website, which is dhvani.co.in/podcast. You can send me voice notes on Facebook or you can DM me on Instagram as well. All these details are there in the show description. This episode has been written, produced and hosted by me. My name is Parth Chauhan. The theme music of this show was composed by Cutie Honey Bunch and the logo of Dhvani was designed by Soumya Garg. Dhvani podcast can be found on all major podcatching platforms like Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, JioSaavn, Amazon Music, Stitcher and everywhere else where podcasts can be heard. Please go ahead and subscribe. That would be very helpful. Also, if you like what you hear, you can support me by buying me a coffee. The link for that is also in the show description. This is season 1 of Dhvani podcast called Socho, and it is almost at the end of its journey. I really hope that you like what I have been doing until now. Please continue to support the way you have been supporting it. Your support is paramount, so thank you for that. So, goodbye, take care, See you in the next one.